Before we begin, let us go through some administrative instructions for the session. If you have not already done so, we ask that you kindly rename yourself with your first name and surname. Please note that we will be taking photos and a video recording for the session for publicity and archival purposes. The recording may be uploaded, distributed, and circulated via the various websites, social media, which includes but not limited to Catholic 200 SG, Caritas Singapore, Charis, and the Archdiocese of Singapore. Please note that besides Caritas Singapore and Charis, no one else should be doing their own recording of this event. We seek your kind cooperation for this. We also ask that you mute your microphones during the presentation, but we would love to see you, and so do turn on your videos. There will be a Q&A session. We will be allocating some time at the end of the session for question and answers. If you have any questions along the way, please utilize the chat function at the bottom. We ask that you first introduce yourself with your name and which organization or parish you belong to, and then followed by your question. You will see a thumbs up and clap function at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. Feel free to use these reactions to show us your responses. Again, if you are facing any technical difficulties with Zoom, please also drop us a message in the chat box for our technical support, and we will attend to you. At the end of this session, we will also be inviting you to give us your feedback. So please do participate in the survey, which will give us guidance for further improvement. And now, without further delay, I would now hand over the time to Joachim To, Executive Director of Clarity Singapore. Over to you, Joachim. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to this evening's event. Before we start, let us just bow our heads for an opening prayer. In the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Almighty Father, thank you for gathering all of us here this evening. Thank you for the blessings you have bestowed on us, our friends, and our families. May the Holy Spirit be in our midst as we open our hearts and minds to discuss how to help those in need of assistance with mental health in our parishes and in our community. We ask this to Christ our Lord. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Please allow me to give a brief outline of tonight's workshop proceedings and an introduction to Clarity Singapore. Most of us already know that this pandemic has accentuated the importance of mental health. Our youth and adults alike have been affected in varying degree. Mental health has increasingly been seen as a necessary component of total health and well-being. At the national level, efforts are being made to better provide psychological support, raise awareness, and to rally the community to help those who need assistance. Today's workshop will be fairly interactive. We'll first share briefly about the mental health landscape in Singapore, how to recognize some of the warning signs in individuals, followed by adopting a holistic perspective towards mental health. We will then have a breakout session for everyone to share their experiences and views of how the church and parishes have provided support to persons struggling with their mental health. We hope through this sharing, we can hear and learn from each other so as to better support individuals in need, to identify areas where we can come together to support and build a safe space within our church. This discussion will hopefully continue beyond tonight's sessions. We look forward to your active participation. Just a bit about clarity. So we are incorporated, or we were incorporated in 2010. We are one of the member organizations under Caritas and an NCSS member. We journey with persons with mental health conditions, regardless of their race, religion, or nationality, and help them live meaningful lives. Our team of psychologists and counselors provide one-to-one therapy to persons aged between 15 to 65 who are experiencing mild to moderate conditions such as depression, anxiety, OCD, and trauma. We also conduct group programs and psycho-educational workshops to raise awareness about mental health. Assisting me tonight with tonight's sessions are my colleagues, Marie, Sarah, Rebecca, and our group of volunteers who will be facilitating in the breakout session later. I will now pass the time over to Marie. Thank you.
Thanks, Joachim. Great. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being with us today. My name is Marie, and I'm an associate psychologist at Clarity. So some things to expect. I'll be taking you through the first portion of the session to share about the mental health landscape in Singapore. And then my colleague Sarah will lead you through the second portion on mental health in our church spaces. She will also be joined by a team of dedicated volunteers to really facilitate the discussion. On our team, we also have Rebecca who will help us with Q&A. So if you have any queries, just feel free to enter your questions in the chat box. You can either directly message her or you can share your question with everyone and she will help to address them. If you have some questions at the end for us, you can expect that at the end of it, the session, we will basically have a bit more of a Q&A lah, if you want to hang on for a bit more. Okay, so yeah. Sarah, next slide, please. Yeah, okay, so these are some clippings of recent news articles published by CNA, Straits Times, and we just want to know, right, like what comes to your mind when you see these headlines. So we'd like to hear from you. So take this time to just freely share your thoughts in the chat box for everyone to see, right? So this topic of mental health has been increasingly talked about in the news, right? We've been hearing more and more about youths, young adults who struggle with their mental health and may have sought help, within their Catholic communities. So this is an issue that is near and dear to all of us and could perhaps be the reason you felt called to join us here today. It's important to kickstart this conversation, really to think about how we can envision our communities as safe spaces for individuals who struggle with their mental health, right? So now some of these headlines could really bring up some emotions, but it could also compel us to action. So just checking to see if anybody has written anything in the chat. Anybody wants to share some thoughts? Yeah, if not, we can move on, no problem. So yeah, just jumping straight into this topic of mental health, right? What does our mental health landscape look like? So we're going to start with a little poll just to get things going. Very soon you help to I guess I can get Eve to really pop up the poll. Yeah. So this is really just a very short poll on mental health. So take this time to answer some of the questions, and then we'll go through them once you've completed the poll. Yeah. Okay, so we can see some answers coming in. Okay, about half of you have responded so far. Let's just wait a little bit more. Okay, yeah, so I think it's standing still for now. So I think majority have responded. So maybe we can kind of take you through some of the answers of the poll. Right, so the first question is, 1 in how many people will experience a mental health condition in their lifetime? And the actual answer is 1 in 7 who will experience a mental health condition in their lifetime. So this was a study that was done by IGNITUS. It was a Singapore mental health study done in about 2016. So this is what they found. Second question, right? The most common mental health condition is, it's actually major depressive disorder, right? So this was also based on the same study done. Yeah. Okay, question number 3. Question number 3 is the treatment gap. So treatment gap, really, you can think about it as in terms of like the delay between the time someone really realizes they have a mental health condition till the time they seek professional help, right? So the treatment gap for OCD was found to be about 11 years. Yeah, which is really a long time. It's more than a decade, which is quite awful to hear. Yeah. Okay, final question. On average, how many people seek help for mental health conditions each year on average? The answer is actually in Singapore, 60,000. So this was a study done in 2020, averaging the past 3 years or so, really on average about 60,000 people seek help for their mental health condition, right? And this is a huge number, but this is considering people who have actually sought help, right? But what about the people who realize they have a mental health condition but don't seek help because of stigma or other reasons? So these are numbers that are really concerning, numbers in the community that are concerning. Yeah, okay, so we'll stop this poll. I'll just stop it, yeah? Okay, yeah, so moving on to the next slide. So this is really a summary of mental health statistics that were found in the study. About, as I mentioned, 1 in 7 people will experience a mental health condition in their lifetime. Interesting fact, the top 3 mental health conditions studied that were found was major depressive disorder. So about 1 in 16 people in Singapore found to have the condition at some point in their lifetime, followed by alcohol abuse and OCD, which is obsessive compulsive disorder, right? Affecting about 1 in 24 people and then 1 in 28 people respectively. So yeah, this is a huge area of concern. In fact, the number of young Singaporeans seeking mental health support has actually significantly increased from 2015 to 2017 by about 190%. So obviously this is quite a pressing issue and a cause for concern and one of the major reasons why we are really talking about this today. Yeah, okay. So let's kind of go back to the fundamentals, right? Because mental health can mean many different things to people, right? So to get everyone on the same page, we want to kind of like start with a working definition of mental health, right? So some people might think, hey, mental health means, you must be happy all the time, right? But individuals who have good mental health can sometimes be sad, anxious, angry, or unhappy, right? It's not about being happy all the time. So a working definition by the World Health Organization in 2015, they said that mental health is defined as a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, right? And number 1, meaning to say that they can cope with normal stresses of life, right? Reason being that, on a daily basis, right, people are faced with difficult, stressful situations, right? So being able to effectively manage these stresses is really key to having good mental health, okay? Secondly, to work productively and fruitfully, right? This means being able to function effectively in basically our work, our daily responsibilities, right? So this is really synonymous with good mental health, right? And finally, to make a contribution to his or her community. Now, we're all social beings, and being part of this community, right? Contributing to that community really is part of that working definition of mental health. So this is just a definition that's given by the World Health Organization. Okay, so with this basis, right, this understanding, everyone being on the same page, usually the next question that follows is, how do I know if someone is suffering from a mental health condition, right? So let's say there is a community member or even a parishioner who approaches you, seeks advice or support. How do you decide if, maybe this individual needs support from a mental health professional? This can be quite baffling for a lot of people. So Sarah, next slide, please. Yeah. So how do you know? So a general guideline, right, is termed the 5 Ds. Okay, so these are really elements that you can observe for somebody who might need help. Okay, so general guide, they are, first one, deviance, second, distress, third, dysfunction, fourth, danger, and fifth, duration. Okay, so we'll take you through each of these quite briefly. So the first one, deviance. So deviance you can look at it from 2 perspectives, right? The first one being deviance from social norms. Okay, so is this person doing something that deviates from typical behavior, socially speaking? And the thing is that context actually matters. So I'll give you an example, right? Let's say we are attending a funeral. Now, in terms of social norms, you would expect that people will look rather somber, rather gloomy at a funeral, right? If you were to walk into a funeral and then you notice there's this one person, right, who laughs hysterically for the entire duration, right? This is an example of somebody who deviates from social norms, taking into consideration the context, okay? The second one is someone who's not acting like their usual self. So just observing someone, really compare them to how you know the person in general, how they used to be before in the past, the average usual behavior. Does he or she exhibit behaviors that is different from the past, right? Is there any change in their behavior, or maybe even the things they say, right? Or maybe even their emotions. So give you an example, maybe Sarah is typically, joyful around people. She's a social butterfly, right? But in these few weeks, I've noticed, she looks gloomy all the time, right? She's isolating herself. She's not engaging socially. So there is a change from her usual behavior, right? So this is what we mean by deviance, okay? The second one is distress. Yeah, so next slide, Sarah. Yeah, distress. So distress really is about being you can think of it as being in physical or psychological pain, right? So to the point that it can, in fact, impact your physical health. So somebody who has headaches, nausea, heart palpitations, shortness of breath, right? They're experiencing distress, physical pain, right? Or they can be very anxious, very high strung. They can't focus, right? This causing a lot of psychological pain, right? It's to the point that it in fact impairs their daily functioning. Okay, so it negatively impacts your ability to function, maybe at work or at school or even in your relationships, right? So this is what we mean by distress. It's causing psychological, physical pain to the point that it's impairing our ability to function daily. Okay, so that's the second one. The third one is dysfunction, right? And dysfunction, you can think of it in terms of a breakdown in cognition, emotion, and behavior. Okay, so if we're talking about someone who has a breakdown in cognition, this person maybe has difficulties focusing at work, right? They have problems with their memory, right? These are signs that there is a breakdown in cognition. Okay, maybe someone who is unable to experience joy, right, would be experiencing a breakdown in emotions, right? And then finally, for someone who is experiencing a breakdown in their behavior, they might be isolated, they might withdraw from social situations, right? Think of an individual who is unable to leave her home, okay? Maybe she fears having a panic attack, right? So this is someone who would be having a breakdown in behavior. So really in general, when we're talking about dysfunction, we're looking at these 3 areas, okay? So the next one we're looking at is danger. Danger is number 4. So danger, very simply put, is really about, you can think of it in terms of this person is really a danger to himself, right? He might be engaging in self-harm behaviors, like cutting the wrist, head banging, things like that. Or it could even be suicidal ideation. So this person frequently on a daily basis has thoughts of killing himself or herself, right? So this person is a danger or a threat to himself, right? Or they could be a danger to other people. So some people may be outwardly aggressive towards other people, right? They are a danger to other people, okay? So this is the 4th one, this is danger. Finally, number 5 would be duration. So generally when we're talking about something that's of duration, we're looking at something that's prolonged. So if you're experiencing distress, dysfunction, right, the 4 Ds I mentioned earlier, right, it's gonna be for a prolonged period of time. If this person maybe is experiencing a stress and is able to manage, right, with the stressor. So let's say in a day, maybe I fail my exam and I feel really, really sad, right? I'm not able to function for maybe a few hours, right? But I'm able to get out of it after a while, right? After a few hours, few minutes, right? And get back to normal functioning, then that's okay. But we're talking about people who are enduring this physical, this psychological suffering for a prolonged period of time. So for example, in the DSM-5, right, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, right, of disorders, basically someone with major depressive disorder would be experiencing certain symptoms and certain criteria for about duration of 2 weeks. So we're looking at something that's prolonged. So really these are all these 5 Ds, basically distress, deviance, dysfunction, danger, and duration. These are things that you can look out for when you're faced with the question, how do I know if someone is suffering from a mental health condition, right? Just guiding points, okay? So I've been talking for a long time. Now that we've all got this understanding of mental health, we're just going to play a short round of true and false to sort of test our knowledge on this topic. So there are 3 questions we'll pose to you, and then you'll answer them in a poll. But let me run through the questions first, okay? So the first question, true or false, individuals are unable to recover from a mental health condition, right? Is this true or false? Okay, this is the first question. Second question, mental health conditions can affect anyone, true or false, right? And third question, with treatment, individuals with mental health conditions can function just as well as any other employee in the workplace, true or false? Okay, so these are the 3 questions. We're going to do a poll now. If you can help me put up the poll, yeah, and you can take this time to answer the true or false questions. Okay, got a lot of answers. Yeah. Great. Okay, awesome. Yeah. Okay, I think we've got a lot of people who have answered. Let me just end the poll. Okay, can everybody see the results? Yeah. So let's go through the first question, right? First question is, individuals are unable to recover from a mental health condition, right? Most of you answered false, and that's the right answer, right? In a sense, people can go back to functioning effectively with treatment after they have sought help if they do need. Okay. Question number 2, mental health conditions can affect anyone. Everybody answered true. So yeah, that's right. The answer is true. Okay. Number 3, with treatment, individuals with mental health conditions can function just as well as any other employee. The answer is true, and all of you have answered as well. So wow, okay, awesome. I'm really impressed by the results of the poll. Thank you everyone for taking part. Just a little fun true and false stuff, but just to reinforce out, I guess, certain misconceptions people may have about mental health conditions. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so now to shift gears a little, right? We really want to talk about another way of viewing mental health, because so far we've just been talking about mental health as if it's a topic on its own, right? But within our capacity as Christians, Catholics, we can sometimes struggle to reconcile or bridge these two concepts, mental health and faith, right? When we talk about mental health, we can actually look at the individual as a whole, okay? We are all created as thinking social beings with a capacity for emotions, communication, and a deep sense of spirituality. So next slide. So we want to introduce this model to you, really, because when we're talking about an individual struggling with a mental health condition, right, we can actually widen our perspective to look at an individual, not just from a biological, psychological, social standpoint, but also from a spiritual standpoint. So this is what we term the BPSS model, the bio, psychological, social, and spiritual model. Okay, so these 4 different aspects can actually affect a person's mental state, either positively or negatively. Okay, so we'll briefly go through each of them. So the first one is the biological aspect, right, that can affect mental health, right? So biologically, we're talking about things like genetics, our genes, right? Family history does have an influence on mental health conditions, right? It can increase the likelihood of someone having a mental health condition if there is a family history, right? Things like substance abuse, medication, right? Things that affect us biologically, physically can also impact our mental health for the better or for the worse, right? If somebody is on medication, that can generally help mental health. Yeah. So look at the next one, psychological, right? So psychological, the next slide. Yeah. We're looking at things like thoughts, emotions, attitudes, right? These things can also shape one's mental health. So for example, if a person has been through trauma in their past, significant trauma in their past, right, that could very likely affect their attitude towards how they think about other people, themselves, or the world around them, right? So they might not be willing to trust other people, or they might see themselves as someone who is unable to be loved, right? So in this psychological aspect, these are things that can really affect a person's current mental state, for positively or negatively. Okay, then we look at the social aspect. The social aspect is really about looking at an individual's wider environment. So thinking about their support system, right? Support system is things like, their family, their local church community, their friends, meaningful relationships, right? This can also include things like culture. The talk really is about, nowadays is really about stigma towards mental health, right? Or maybe the idea that boys cannot cry. So things like this can all affect mental health. So take, for example, someone who might come from a family who is very supportive and loving, right? In spite of the adversity they might face, the stresses they might face in their life, having a very supportive support structure, support system in their family can really set them up to be resilient in the face of these adversities or stresses. Okay. Finally, we have the spiritual aspect. Yeah. So these are things to do with, it could be prayer, or maybe even what religion means to you. These are things that can positively or even negatively impact our mental health. So for someone who perhaps is in a state of distress, right, they might turn to God in times of distress and find peace and serenity in their relationship with God, right? So even things like the church community, right, having spiritual direction, someone who can also pray with you or be with you, this can also influence your spirituality and also affect your mental health. So these are basically the 4 areas that we can really zoom out and look at where we are considering an individual who's struggling with mental health. Are we considering all 4 aspects, or are we sort of pigeonholing and maybe only looking at mental health without really integrating it with spirituality and faith? Yeah. So that's really one new way we could perhaps look at mental health. Yeah. Okay, next slide. Yeah, so with all that said and done, I think there's been also a lot of concern, okay, great, I understand about mental health, I have basic knowledge and understanding, but perhaps this person I'm journeying with may need professional mental health support, right? Or even spiritual direction. So these are some resources that are actually available in the community. For people who might require immediate support, they can turn to the nearest A&E or even the National Care Hotline, right? IMH also has a mental health hotline that people can turn to. Yeah. In terms of psychiatric support, polyclinics do support people with mental health conditions. In fact, there are polyclinics who have individuals who are trained in mental health, right? Psychologists or even doctors who, like GPs who are trained with a diploma in mental health, right? So they can also give referral to other agencies if need be. Okay. There's also counseling and psychological support, turning to places like IMH, even Clarity Singapore, Touch Community Services, Care Corner, Family Service Centers. So there are resources available out there in the community, and perhaps it's just a question of really being more aware of these resources so that we know who to turn to in times of distress. Okay. Next slide. Yeah. So we also have resources within our Catholic communities, Catholic Family Life, Kingsmead Center, Boys Town, Montfort Care. These are places that are, available in our community. In terms of spiritual direction, turning to parish, even Life Spring, St. Damiano Franciscan Center. So there are resources that are available. And really at the end of the day, if you would like to have more information about these resources, we will be sending out some resources that you can turn to also in our resource card. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So yeah, if you do know anyone who is struggling with their mental health, or you yourself find yourself struggling with your mental health, you can always call in at a hotline to receive services. So this really is our service journey. Basically, if you need, you can just call in at that number 67577990, right, or write into us. What happens after is basically we will send you a form that you can fill out just to get an understanding of your current needs and concerns, and then we'll have a first appointment just to get to know you better, understand your concerns, and then that's when either therapy services or programs can begin. So this is just a simple overview of what to kind of expect in terms of our service. Yeah. Okay. The next slide. Yeah. Sarah, you can turn to the next slide. Yeah. Okay. So I will now pass on my time to Sarah, who will take you through the second portion of this discussion. Yeah. Sarah, over to you.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, Marie. Okay. So I think before we go on to the next part, I think I did see some of you guys taking down notes and all that. Just wanted to let you all know that don't worry, we will also send you guys the slides, yeah, as well as the resources that Marie just spoke about lah. Yeah. So maybe we've been sitting for quite a bit, we're quite anxious, or like, wow, got so many things to learn. So we want to do some stretches a little bit, maybe get up and walk around. Yeah, before we move on to this next exciting part, because we need to share with people. We will be going into breakout rooms for a little bit. Yes, okay. So maybe like massage your face, or like, do some arm stretches. Yeah, okay, everybody stretch with me. Okay. Arms a bit. I think after like a whole day of work, for some of us, maybe work from home. Nice. I see Mel doing some neck stretches. Yeah. If we sit in front of the computer a bit too long, wow. Sometimes I also get like shoulder ache and all that. Yeah, not sure about you guys. All right. Are we all warmed up? Yes. All right. So if you can see in the room, we have a wonderful group of facils who are with us. Okay, and maybe to just talk a little bit more, we have conducted some brave chats, so which is kind of like a group of discussions lah. Yeah, over from like June to July, of which our our Clarity Being Brave volunteers help to facilitate. So these brave chats are under our Being Brave project. I'm not sure if you guys have attended Brave before. It's a Brave festival which was held last year, so it's kind of like an extension of it to kind of continue this conversation about mental health and faith, just like how we are doing it today. And thank you guys again for coming along with us on this journey. Yes. So similarly, the Brave chat sessions, we kind of had discussion with 5 different groups of people. So particularly targeting at 2 groups. So the youths themselves, which are students as well as working adults, and then the people who work with youth. So parents, church workers as well as educators, as well as catechists as well. So I think some of you do fall into this category. Maybe you've heard about it as well. Yeah. So after conducting these Brave chat sessions, so the insights gathered will really kind of like help to contribute towards the creation of purposeful and targeted community-led initiatives in this space. So this space meaning our Catholic space lah. Yeah. So these Brave chats were really targeted to facilitate conversations to kind of understand on the ground, what's happening. Yeah, what's in the minds of our Catholic youth today, especially towards mental health. And of course, for the people who work with these youths, right, they kind of like know a little bit more or what are their struggles. And also we want to help the people who are working with them. So for example, the catechists, what are they facing and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So for the first time ever, we are sharing these with you guys. So exclusive, these Brave chat results. So we found 5 different sets of like gaps and needs from the discussions that we felt that, okay, really kind of like came up from the discussions and were quite prominent lah. So firstly, it's the difficulty in identifying signs and symptoms. So, previously, Marie also went through like the 5 Ds, which are kind of like generally what to look out for and what kind of like crosses that line. But many of them realize that, they actually don't really know, not sure when to seek professional help. There's kind of like that gray area that, okay, I'm not too sure whether my friend actually needs help or my youth needs help or not. Yeah, in the sense to kind of further that professional help a little bit more, or is it okay, I can just talk to them and they'll be fine. Yeah. The next one would be barriers to service. So not knowing mental health resources, so where to refer people to professional help, as well as varying views on treatment. So in a sense, that sense of stigma is still there to kind of like seek professional help. Number 3 is unsure of how to support peers in need. So this really came up when we were talking to the youth. They weren't sure like, if my friend needs help, then what do I do? My friend needs help. I think, and then, as friends, right, we start to pour out our struggles and a lot of things, maybe we are in distress and all that kind of stuff. But then our friend is like, okay, so what do I do? What do I say? Yeah, many of them, they don't really know. And also, interestingly, the people who work with the youth also realize the importance of friendships. Yeah, the importance of peers to kind of like help this particular youth maybe to become better in their mental health. So the idea of community and the social aspect, which Marie also went through like in the BPSS model, is quite important, and that really came up. While there's still a stigma attached to mental health, despite all the talk about mental health in the recent times, I feel like every other week there is an article on the Straits Times talking about mental health, and it's really important. However, there is still a stigma about it and attached to mental health. And faith, I think this is something that we are all here for. There is a lack of Catholic or faith mental health resources. Interestingly, this is something that the youth are also looking out for. Yeah. So maybe it could be something that it might not be also promoted enough within the Catholic space. Yeah. So moving on, we'll go to our discussion now. Okay. So we'll be split into 7 different groups, and each group will have one facilitator. We will kind of like briefly discuss about these questions lah. So I think after hearing from Marie as well as Joaquin, everything that you have heard tonight so far, just want to come together to kind of like share our thoughts and ideas. So firstly is, have you encountered members from your parish or community who expressed concerns relating to their mental health? So really just a space for you to share any experiences that you had and how you went about it. So for example, like how you handled the situation, what did you do, what was your reaction? And maybe if you do not have any experience of this, maybe you never encountered anybody who has any concerns about their mental health, then maybe you can imagine, right, in the future, what if somebody comes up to you and they start sharing their mental health struggles? What would you do and how would you react? Yeah, so maybe this is something for you to think about. Yeah. And the second question is, we are talking about church spaces here in the church community, right? So how do you think that the church can be a safe space to address mental health concerns? And if so, how would you envision this safe space to look like? And are there some of these initiatives currently in place? So I know that in some parishes or some communities, there are already some initiatives starting about to talk about mental health a little bit more. And I think really our goal for this segment is to pool resources and ideas to make our church community and as well as the larger church a safe space for people to talk about mental health. So hopefully after the discussion, we can see what we can do collectively as a church, how to implement some of these ideas in our parishes and our communities, as well as the larger church. Yeah. So feel free to take a photo of these questions and we will also put them in the chat box. Yep, so Marie has also put them in the chat box, right? So we have facilitators inside each sharing group to kind of guide the discussion about it. Yeah, and they will also be taking down some key points to share later. So in your breakout room, please also assign maybe one speaker to share with the larger group when we come back. So as for our clarity staff, we will be inside too, but we will just be observing lah. Yeah, just listening to your conversation. Yeah. Okay, so just going to go through some group learning agreement. This is something that we do for all our programs and workshops as well. Yeah, so really encourage all of you guys to switch on your videos. Yeah, so that, in our breakout rooms, you kind of know who's around. Yeah, and if you want, you can also introduce yourself like, oh, okay, hi, my name is Sarah. What parish you're from, maybe why you are here also. Okay, and then keep your sharing to the guiding points, which was the 2 questions lah. Yeah, and try to listen with an open mind and respond with a kind heart. Refrain from recording, taking photos, or anything that may divulge the identity of the other participants. So especially in this, in our breakout rooms, as well as to respect confidentiality. Yeah, so not to share any of the discussion content, especially if we are sharing about our experiences. Yeah, not to share with people outside the group. So we will also not be recording the discussion in the breakout rooms. Yeah, so don't worry about that. Come back. Okay, yes, recording in progress. Thank you all for the wonderful discussion. Yeah, I think it was really good that we had to extend for a little bit more time so that we can dive deeper into the topics as well. Okay, so our wonderful facils have also kind of like taken down what you guys have shared also. So what I will do now is actually to share my screen and we'll go through them group by group lah. So group 1, maybe you guys can get ready already. Maybe whoever is, I just hold on. Let me, aha. All right, so whoever is ready to share, group 1.
Clarice?
Yeah. Facils, you can call out also.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know we were group 1.
Or I guess if you are in breakout group 1, then you are in group 1. Then breakout room 2, you are group 2. Okay.
Oh,
So,
sorry, I didn't notice that numbers.
oh, no worries, it's
Okay.
fine. Our facilities
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, so I think what we mainly shared within our group was that we did encounter members in our community who expressed their concerns relating to mental health. I think mostly what we noticed were anxiety, but also what helped one another realize, and another lady in our group also shared, was that I think being together in the community helps us all to be more aware collectively. I think when you share like shared experiences, I think it helps one another to diagnose the symptoms and things like that, and to be more aware of what we're going through, and to actually recognize them, and then to find or rather to seek help together, and also to be support for one another in the times that we struggle. And I think it is also the parents learning to be able to support their children. I think growing aware of it and then being able to support their children is something that we shared also. Because like not just support from like professionals, right? Like support at home, we found to be also very important. That increases the support, the quality of support that each individual will get. Yeah, I think that's mainly what we share for the first question.
So I guess a bit more of the social aspect, right, within the community as well as the family. Okay, thank you. And thanks everyone in that group. So the second question, maybe some maybe ideas or initiatives that are currently in play.
So I think we were talking more about envisioning what kind of initiatives that we would like. So I think one of our members actually shared about having the priest talk more about mental health in the sermon, and also talk about having it more in the bulletin, like people sharing testimonies and things like that. And I think when it comes to how sharing space within a youth group and support within the parish, I think something that we talked about a lot was vulnerability also within the youth group. And I think vulnerability has to start somewhere. And I think something that my youth group shared that was very special was the vulnerability of our SD. And I think that really propelled us forward and allowed us to be the support for one another. And I think it was also the idea that like being close to Jesus eventually helped us realize also that, you know, our suffering has a purpose. And I think that was that could be something that is talked about more, you know, the purpose of suffering and that helping you grow closer to Jesus, I think. And also apart from that, also conversations between the different age groups. I think not just conversations within like the youth, right? Like not just the youth group, because like I think with different ages come with like different forms of wisdom. And I think that is also very important. And I think it would also help like the different generations realize the different struggles of mental health from the different times. Because I think last time they were always told to, you know, not talk about it, that these things are so taboo, you know. And I think it would help to normalize all these things. And I think normalizing panic attacks by talking about them, normalizing depression, normalizing anxiety, and talking about the symptoms that we feel, I think it often is the start of the road to recovery. Yeah, so those are some of the things that we chatted about in the group.
Okay, thank you so much to the first group, and thanks so much, Clarice, for presenting this to us as well. I think what really struck out to me, you know, as we are also all somehow in one way or another in a helping position, right, in a leadership position, you know, that the vulnerability of, you know, the leaders ourselves, right, to share maybe our struggles can really kind of help the community or the ministry that we are leading, right, to have I guess a better support system lah, at least to be aware of, oh, okay, maybe someone else is also experiencing something like this. Yeah, and I guess it also kind of like brings out that sense of, oh, we are not alone, you know, that okay, someone else is also experiencing this at the same time, and no, we're all in this together lah. Yeah, that sense of community spirit also. All right, thanks so much. Thank you so much, Clarice. All right, so the second breakout room, maybe the Facil can call out who is the presenter.
Elvin?
Okay, Elvin.
Okay. So I think for us, when we talked about who has encountered members from the parishioner community, most of the group shared that they have not encountered members who have expressed concerns within the mental health in the parish, but they have seen them in the community. So the exception to this was a catechist who shared about professionally counselor, but so then he picked up the issues directly from work. So there's a bit of an overlap there. But in terms of expressions or identification of mental health in the community, that's very low for our group. It's something that we also considered in the next part, in question 2.
Okay, so I'll go to question 2, yeah?
Yeah. So when we talked about that, we were looking at this idea of how do we encourage people to talk about it more. And what came out was the idea of trust and genuineness in relationships. So creating this safe space requires there to be trusted adults or trusted figures within the community who can then build the relationship with individuals to have that conversation more deeply or more intentionally. One suggestion that came out also was to have a centralized hotline to contact if in the event of an emergency or a high-risk case. Let's say someone is suicidal, who can they call? The knee-jerk reaction is always called IMH, A&E. But I think having a resource within the church will also help in terms of having the faith perspective, because the BPSS framework also allows for that faith perspective. I think one suggestion we had was providing a physical space or virtual space for individuals to come together and just be people. So we are looking at the person, not the problem anymore.
Okay, thanks so much, group 2, and thanks, Elvin, for presenting. Yeah, the physical or virtual space to hang out. Yeah, I think this is what we are also trying to do at this moment, right? To create this safe space for everyone to share our own experiences and ideas also. All right, thank you. Okay, so the next one, group 3.
John?
Hi, hello.
Hello,
I think
hi,
it's me.
John.
I think we're group 3. Yeah. Okay. So I'll be sharing question 1, and then Kira from my group will be sharing question 2. Yeah. Sarah, can I go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Okay, let me try to recollect. Yeah. Okay, so when my group was discussing this question, we actually shared that yes, we do encounter people, friends in our community who struggle with mental issues, emotional issues. Some of them are seeking treatment, seeking support, but some of them, they are not. And I think an obstacle is actually about confidentiality. And also, some people might feel afraid to be seen with a counselor, or, word might go out that, or they're going for counseling. So there is still a stigma. I think what our group shared was amongst maybe the older adults. So some common encounters we personally experience are suicidal thoughts as well as anxiety. I think those are more common. And I think for ourselves, we also saw the value in journeying individually with these people who are struggling, not to be their counselors, not to be there to get them out of their issues, but to just create space for them to be heard. And I think that's what my group agreed, that it's important to remind people who are struggling mentally that they're not alone, and we can do that by being there with them, just to listen and to perhaps offer prayers and make ourselves available to them. Yeah. And then I think the last point, we also talked about when do we know this individual needs spiritual direction or counseling. So that's something that we want to figure out also, and maybe we can better support our friends and our community members in parish. Yep. So that's for question 1.
Okay, thank you so much, John. Yeah, I can see some overlaps with the next question also. Yeah, maybe who was it?
Kira?
Yeah, okay. As this will be more specific stuff. Okay, go for it.
Yeah, I think within our group, there's 2 of them who belongs to Smota, the parish of Smota. So they shared that apparently the parish priest, the whole environment at Smota, it's kind of gives a very peaceful vibe, and they also shared that there are rooms for people who needs to seek help to go there and kind of. I think I'm not sure if it's a Franciscan thing, but I guess it's the whole very communal spirit there at Malta. That they have. So they said that the priests are very approachable and open about talking and supporting on mental health. Another key thing that we did share is before even going into the church being a safe space is creating that awareness and educating on mental health issue, and not having that stigma that is being stick to mental health. So getting that general education, ensuring that people are more aware of what mental health is, so that I think it also help equip people to be able to help when they know of someone that might be in need of assistance, and things like that. And then the other thing we shared is on coaching, and so I think in Smota they have the coaching and counseling arm. And then with all this thing, we wanted to, privacy and confidentiality should definitely be the number 1 priority that need to ensure of, because it's a very vulnerable topic. People even taking that first step to come and talk about it, that and to acknowledge and admit that, okay, I have this mental health and I need to seek help. I think even taking that very first step takes a lot of courage. Is why we need to ensure that privacy is being given, and that safe space then is being given, and the person is then able to really be able to share. And that I guess that's also where the counseling and all this then will really be able to achieve its purpose, right? And then we talk about the importance of journeying with the person, be it our friends or even in the bigger church group. Like how can we even I don't know, maybe even volunteer at Clarity, right? Create that awareness, and even talking. I think even talking among our friends, and even on social media, right? I think I subscribed to the Telegram channel, and you have really cute Telegram stickers. So that's that. And next thing is, of course, normalizing mental emotional health, and going to therapy, helping, seeking help, and again, I think going to therapy and counseling is becoming more normal. It's not, there are people sometimes even we don't know that we actually ourselves have experienced some traumatic experience. We just, even during childhood, it might not come make aware to us, right? Sometimes I've heard of many stories of people going to the CR retreats, and during that CR retreat, they that a lot of these traumatic experience are being revealed to them, and so maybe that is a starting point where they are made aware of this kind of incidents and experience. And the next step is going to therapy, seeking professional help to talk about it, and of course having that friends community support will help them get through, so that also keeping them accountable to going for this kind of therapy session.
Wow, that's quite a lot. Yeah, thanks so much, Kiara. And not I say one, but thanks for the shout outs for the Clarity stickers. Yes, you guys can download it and use it on WhatsApp also. Yeah. So I think there's a lot that you've mentioned. in terms of especially the therapy process, right? And if people come up to us and to share with us also the idea of confidentiality to provide that safe space for each other also. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. Thanks so much, Group 3. And yeah, for the very, very insightful sharing also. Okay, so the next one, Group 4.
Hi.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi. Can I see the slides? Thanks.
Sure, yes.
Okay. So okay, in our group, we don't have people who have not in the parish that we know of people who have problems. But we do have in our own dealings with our own family members or our own friends. Okay, we have this. I think one concern that was brought up that is people losing their faith, like not believing in people, not believing in God anymore because the depression has hit them so bad that they have lost hope. Okay, and the worst thing is losing the Catholic faith. And as a church, as a community, how do we help these people find their way back again? You know, to know that God is still there, God has not abandoned you, and you should not abandon yourself. So I think this is something that the community needs to do. So what we have encountered is not in our parish community, we don't have such instances, but we do have a catechist who have to deal with autistic students. But almost all of us agree that we are not equipped to deal with it, deal with these people with mental health. We need to listen and find out if this person needs further help. But the first step is this person who needs help must know that he or she needs help and want to open up. Okay, so how do we even recognize people in our community, whether it's in the smaller church community or that they need help? How do we recognize the signs and the signals of this? And I think one thing that we talk quite a lot about is how to help this person get back to the religion, get back to the faith, to know that, you know, you are not alone. You are not struggling alone because, you know, God is there to help you. So this is the most difficult part about getting people back into it's the first step of healing. When a person reaches that stage where I don't believe in God anymore because God is not hearing me. So this is really challenging. So so we also have sharing where someone shared that, you know, at the point when she was having a lot of anxiety and stress, she actually turned to God and found that God was the only person there to help her. So you know, and I think that just proves the point that we need God no matter what state of mental health we are in, and how to find these people come back. Yeah, that's something that as a community, as a church, we need to do more. So that comes to our next question, how? Yeah,
okay. So
maybe
this is the how.
so a lot,
So you can summarize. I can summarize.
Okay, basically we think that awareness needs to be there for the whole entire Catholic Church community. So it can be even like in your church bulletin, in even Catholic news, that we have a small column fortnightly or every month, have a small column about depression to educate people that this is really a real sickness. Like for example, the statistic that you share, 1 out of 7 people gets depression. So these are useful information that help people be more aware. Okay, how to then people know how to reach out, and because stigma exists, so we want to have this education that reach out to the whole community, the whole Catholic community at large. Okay, then we also know that within the parish you have smaller community, you have the choir, you have the warden, everybody. So the thing is, people tend to open up in their small community, right? Or they go to the priest. So in this small community, then I think the small community, they also need to be equipped to recognize, that hey, my friend in my community has this problem. So this is something that I think we all need to be equipped with. But then we also talk about, not everybody is in a community. A lot of people are Sunday Catholics. So what do they do? So I think one way is to encourage more people to join a small community, whether the ward or whatever, so that you are a vibrant and active church. Okay, then you can really help when these things happen. So we talk about the bulletins, on how to help, and how this bulletin in church can tell people that your faith and your mental health, they are really closely related. Okay, so how do you have one and then it will help you. So, okay, some members also mentioned that, pray for them first. The prayers is very, very important. You pray for them, and in your community sessions or when the person confides in you. So the power of prayer is very important. So now the communities, we also talk about intercessory prayer, all right? Some of our members shared that being prayed for during the intercessory prayer actually helped a lot. So we can even formalized a support group where you pray for people with mental health, okay? And also we talk about a support group that is trained, maybe a core team that are trained and qualified, who is able to reach out. I think I just heard that Smota has something like that, right? So not all the churches have it. So if we can have that, then at least it's like, in like school you have counselor, right? So you can have this group of volunteer and people will feel comfortable and safe because they're talking to people from the church, but at the same time, they're also trained and qualified. This can be professionals who are Catholics, and most of the time when people feel lost, usually the first place they want to go to is they want to go to church. Yeah. So this is where having this support group can help. Yeah, I think that's so. We have like doctors who can serve, so we can have psychiatrists or psychologists who can help to serve as well. Okay, so I think that's all our sharing. Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much, Cheryl. Yeah, I think you really highlighted the spiritual aspect, in the BPSS, right? In terms of like raising awareness especially in our church community, as well as the communities being that main support by praying for them through intercessory prayer, or just, the first step is really to pray for them. I think your group really highlighted that. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so I am a little bit aware of the time, so maybe the next few groups can move a little bit faster also. Yeah, okay, so but we have about 3 more groups. So okay, group 5.
Hi. So I was too immersed in the sharing, so I forgot to choose someone, but I managed to ask Moses to help me present question 2. So I'll present question 1.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so for our group, actually all of us had experiences with people who approached them when they had concerns about their mental health, and they realized and they shared that our church communities are safe spaces to share about our mental health conditions, and cell group leaders are also open, and they will give space for those who are suffering from these conditions. And because of this shared faith, there is also this element of empathy, and also actually a lot of our members are aware of the Catholic resources, so they referred their friends to Clarity and Agape Village. And and also there's still a bit of uncertainty about where to refer friends who are non-Catholic, and their friends are aware of services like hospitals, but for maybe less intimidating services, like there's still a bit of lack of awareness about that. So that's for our question 1.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. So question 2.
So for me, I will share question 2. Our group agrees that the church is a safe space to share, as the people in church are more compassionate, and they are they will not judge the people who shares their mental health issues. Probably like if they say that they are anxious, they are suffering from anxiety or fear or panic attacks or something like that. I think the people from church are usually very compassionate on that they know people do go through suffering, and they will offer more help, and they will not like say that, oh, why you like that, why you like this, but probably they show comfort, and they probably will offer some assistance. So we also agree that the church does have a lot of avenues to offer help to the parishioners. Like for example, if someone is struggling with mental health issue, and then they probably people from church can offer them to maybe go for prayer sessions or healing services, retreats, and then probably read scriptures and also the sacraments. So for me, I feel that when people share about their mental health, generally there is an avenue and there is a hope that the church members can share with the person suffering from it. Like they can direct them to somewhere and get hope lah. For example, those sacraments and prayer and healing services. And also we agree that the confidentiality is very important. But then I think right now that people are still there's still a stigma about mental health, and people for various reasons, depending on the individual, have a fear of sharing more about their mental health. Yeah. So some of the things that we can do is probably do some rosary session, like the catechesis or some ministry in the parish that they can come together to do a rosary session and probably share more knowledge about mental health and what they can do to help the people that are seeking help in their parish. And then the thing that is more difficult to handle, I think, is the youth lah. Because I think adults, we are able to share with people about our mental health issues easier than youths. Youths might not know what they are going through, or they might not know who to share it with. And I think another thing is that youths, when they share that, for me, I personally, sometimes if a youth tell me that they are maybe battling with this or that, we will not, like, sometimes we will just shut them off. Like, hey, you're so young, you sure you got mental health issue or not? That kind of thinking lah. So I think we need to be more sensitive towards the youth nowadays and encourage them to talk more about these kind of things so that they can share what's on their mind. And then also, we feel that the volunteers can give support by giving them phone calls and texts, and also more education on mental health with spirituality can be done in the parish lah. Yeah. So I think the important point that our group came to agreement is that mental health, the person seeking mental health, they can get the best treatment or best help, right, by combining professional help, which we can say like a center like Clarity. They provide professional help, and then the church can, for example, the priest or the people in the church can provide spiritual help, and then combining both together, that is the best lah. So probably like it's good to spread awareness in the church that if someone is going through a mental health issue, then probably you can offer him some prayer, some spirituality stuff, but also encourage him to go for a treatment with a professional. Yeah, so that's what we have come to conclusion. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Moses. Yeah, I think your conclusion really kind of like encapsulates that whole like integrated person, right? Where we are not just the psychological or the mental, but also like we are very spiritual beings. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks so much, Group 5. Okay, almost the end. Group 6.
Hello, Sarah. So I will be the one representing Group 6 for the points that we have discussed. So okay, I'll start off with the first point. So the consensus among the group is that yes, they do have encountered people who have struggled with mental health, and I think some of them did raise up the point that actually some people might push them away, or it might try to avoid them having this mentality that since you are a certain way, you are not able to basically be normal again. It's very difficult for you to be normal, and hence they feel that it's very difficult to approach them. And even when you do, sometimes there's this feeling of certain demand when you start conversing with them, and they kind of like want more of your attention, and hence they feel that sometimes it's difficult to basically keep up with that commitment lah. Yeah, in that sense. Yeah, but at the end of the day, I think through the encounter, we also came to a point or conclusion that we need to treat these people literally as people. Like, we shouldn't see them as any different. We should see them as children of God, and yeah, we should just speak to them normally without having any sort of biasness, and yeah, try to just converse with them as friends. And yeah, so that's for the encountering part. And for the second question,
Okay, second
Yes.
question.
Yes.
Wow.
yeah. So for the second question itself, I'll just try to summarize. I think the consensus is that with COVID-19 and this so-called isolation, where we're not able to go out of places, the churches are essentially closed even on free times, you're not able to walk into the church. We feel that maybe the church could do a bit more to basically welcome the people in this period. We try to be a bit more creative. I think it was also mentioned maybe using a virtual space to allow them to have conversations, to allow them to essentially feel welcome by the church, even though the physicality of the gates closing in front of them is there. So yeah, that was one of the suggestions. And another one was also something that was raised also, was something like training. So specific causes, I think that was mentioned, it was mental health first aid. So it's something along the lines of trying to give awareness about what kind of mental health illnesses out there, how do they manifest, what do they need to look out for, and yeah, essentially making the people or the church more aware of how it presents itself. Also, it's to try and engage with the families or people who are close to these people who are struggling with mental health, so that there'll be more support back in their day-to-day life or at home as well. And yeah, so hopefully with that engagement, with that education by the church, not only will they know the practicality side of things of knowing mental health, but we can also try to merge the spirituality of it and to align it with, or to basically superimpose it with what the church teaches about us lah. But I guess all in all, with all this said, I think the last point that my group wrote is really the most important. All in all, we have to look at all these people with a lens of love, as at the end of the day, they are sons and daughters of God. So, yeah.
Thanks so much, James. Yeah, I think just like thinking back about all the other suggestions that you guys also have, very, very similar in the sense of raising a more awareness, going for maybe like courses, or maybe attending some training, reading up more about mental health, and also supporting the people who are supporting those with mental health struggles. Equipping people with the necessary skills, as well as understanding a bit more about how the community or the family plays a big part in terms of supporting people who are maybe having certain mental health struggles at that moment in life. All right, so maybe for the final group, or the second final group, maybe you can share a little bit about something that might be different also from what we have shared earlier from the other groups. So maybe group 7 is
Yes,
Brian.
so I will be, we were having a lively discussion, so we forgot to assign someone.
No worries.
Okay, so I will do this. Okay, so I think in general we did this we had some sharing over the different experiences we had. Someone mentioned that she was a catechist, and one of the youth had issues, so they attached the catechist, but eventually after the measures came into place and confirmation, they lost contact with the youth. And they also mentioned that at that time, the catechists, they're also not very sure how to approach parents when youth come up with such issues, and they're also not very sure where to direct them. we also had some people who had experience like directing people to other Catholic councils. So I think that was a good thing. And there were other people who talked about, perhaps we see people with strange behaviors in the parish, but they're not sure if these people have mental health issues or they are just like that. I think we also were very blessed to have to have the perspective of a priest in our group, and he also mentioned that it's important for them to be able to know how to reach out to these people, and they also may feel very helpless because they're really not very sure how to help these people, and even if they do try to help them, they're not sure if it's the right way. Yeah, so I think what we have here is people just not really knowing how to identify and maybe how to deal with these issues when they see it happen, and they're not very sure how to address it because it's a sensitive issue, right? Okay, so the next slide. I think to address that, I think one of the points that came up was that every parish should have a group of people who are trained to support these people who are suffering from mental health challenges. I think this is also something that unfortunately was very similar to what other people had mentioned previously. I think in general what we talked about was very similar to what the others have mentioned, in the sense that firstly we need to train people to support these people with mental health challenges, and the point came up that this approach has to be done very skillfully. So how do we approach these people in a sensitive way? Especially people may not be very comfortable with this, especially because it's not perhaps it's not seen to be in the same realm, right? When we go to church, we are going to the spiritual realm, but when you look at mental health, people don't see that it's related, or it can be related to our own spirituality. So to address this, also some points about psychoeducation came up, and also to increase the availability of resources like a confidential phone number, so it's a phone number that people can call if they need help. And I think another point that came up was actually about youth leaving the church because they don't feel understood. So this, I think this underlies like some of the issues with the youth right now, because they don't feel heard. They don't feel heard, and also sometimes we just say that, oh, you are not praying enough and therefore you have these mental health issues, or they may have gender identities that might be different from that of what the church preaches. So for us to create that safe space for them, and we will need to journey with them, and also to prevent these things before they come up. And to do this, someone actually mentioned that we could try to find facilitators. So you mentioned that in her parish, there are junior facilitators who will journey with these youths after they are confirmed. And it is difficult because it's difficult to find these people as well. Yeah, so we need to be able to identify these people and to journey with them. And I think that is one of the things that came out as well, journeying with the youth after confirmation, to keep them in the church, and also really to these people who are journeying, they don't really need to they don't only need to journey, but there's also the aspect of perhaps giving a listening ear, when they have their own mental health issues. We also talked about how we need to remember the caregivers as well, because they're important. And I think the last point we talked about was to strengthen a culture of seeking help. And for this, the idea of psycho-spirituality came out. I think we were saying that it is important to discuss this idea that actually both the psychology and spirituality are actually interconnected. And when we actually are able to show that they are interconnected, this will actually kind of breach that idea, that we mentioned earlier, that people may not see that mental health issues and the spiritual realm are two different things, but actually they're the same. And so when that happens, people might be more willing, right, to step up and to seek help.
Thank you so much, Brian. Yeah, I think like what you also mentioned earlier, a lot of things are very have also been mentioned previously, and I think we are all on the same page, as leaders of in maybe our ministry community, or that this is the direction that everyone hopes to move towards. And I think as a larger church, this is a very, very good sign, that we all want to move towards the same goal together. Yeah. And I think moving on, we have a group of very supportive seminarians. So not too sure whether you guys want to present. With the group I was talking to might want to, I don't know, unmute, or if y'all don't want, I can just briefly go through what we discussed also. I cannot see anything. No signal from them.
Everything has been said already.
Everything has been said already, right? Yeah. Okay, so maybe just briefly you can take a look at this. Yeah, and then so very similar. I think also want to highlight that currently there are also para counseling in our parishes and this is something that we can also continue to think a little bit more about. Yeah. All right. Okay. Maybe wait. I need to change my sharing so that we can start to close up also. Thank you everyone once again for the really, really lively discussion. I think a lot of things came up from that very, very similar things as what I mentioned earlier, something that we are moving towards together as a church. Yeah. So I think as we close up tonight, if you enjoyed today's session and you would like to maybe see a little bit more about what Clarity does, as well as to maybe even continue this conversation so that we can also help to support the people that we are supporting. If you enjoyed today's session, please do help us to continue to fulfill our mission of supporting people with mental health issues and conditions live meaningful life. So by journeying with them through like psychotherapy, which is our one-to-one therapy sessions, as well as psychoeducational workshops. So we constantly try to improve our services and encourage persons who are at risk of suffering from mental health conditions to seek early help. So I think as what you guys also mentioned, mental health is not a very comfortable topic of discussion for a lot of people. There is still that stigma, and especially with this pandemic, and it has been increasingly at the forefront of national and community level. So with your kind donation or love offering, you can touch lives and enable us to positively impact those affected by mental health conditions. So you can just scan the QR code if you like. Any amount would definitely help in whatever that we are doing, as well as the people we are serving. We are incredibly grateful for any amount that you donate. And if you do donate above $50, it is also tax deductible. So you can feel free to scan the QR code. And if you would like to get a tax deductible receipt, you can also go to this link or you can also go to giving.sg. We also have a page there as well. I'll just leave this slide on for a few moments. Okay, so before we close up, let's keep in touch. I think we've had a very amazing conversation also. So you can feel free to go to our website, give us a call, send us an email. And I think Kiara also shared about the Telegram channel. Yes, we do have a Telegram channel. So come and download the cute stickers. I will quote from her. Not from me. Okay. We also have Instagram as well as Facebook. We are quite active there. So feel free to give us a follow. All right, so I think at this point, Yeah, okay, so Rebecca has also put up if you are keen to volunteer as part of our Being Brave program, or if you'd like to get in touch with us, feel free to send me an email. That my email is there. And we can see how else we can collaborate. All right, so I'll hand over the time back to Mel. Thank you everyone again.
Joachim, Marie, and Sarah and the team at Clarity Singapore, thank you so much for this thoughtful and engaging session that you had held this evening. Now, to wrap up this event, we would ask all of you just to stay on with us for a short while more for your feedback, as well as some further announcements. Firstly, we would like now to ask everyone to help us complete the feedback form. Please scan the QR code shown on the screen, or you may also wish to click on the link that is placed in the chat box.
Okay, so actually would like someone to just read off and to lead us in our closing prayer. So it's actually a prayer by Saint Dymphna for those with mental suffering. So maybe can I have a volunteer to just help us to lead in this segment, this short closing prayer for us and to close up the night. Any volunteers from the room? Anybody?
God our Father, you graciously chose Saint Dymphna to be a sign of your love and care by placing those with mental sufferings under her special patronage. Through her intercession, please hear our prayers for all suffering from these afflictions, especially for those who wish to be prayed for. Give them grace to bear and unite their sufferings with Christ. Fill them with hope and grant them the consolation and healing they seek, if it be your will. May they receive the love and help they need for a dignified life. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. All right. So thank you, everybody. Thanks, Sister Elizabeth, as well, for leading in this closing prayer. So thanks, everyone. Once again, I hope that you enjoyed this evening's workshop. And yes, we will see you guys maybe very soon. Do join in the other Caritas and Caris events, but the IGNITUS conference and all that very exciting lineup. Yes, so we'll see you all, and thanks everyone. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Hi, everyone. Good night. Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clarity.
Good night.
Good night. God bless.
Thank you
And
again.
everyone, thank you.